Hello, everybody. We're going to pack our bags very lightly because we will not have too many porters, and we're going to go to India. What do you know about India? Well, I'll tell you. It's 1/3 the size of the United States, but has 3 times the people. In fact, in India, 34 people are born and 10 people die every minute. I went to India to teach at a village school. I quickly learned how ignorant I was. Whatever can be said about India, the opposite is also true. Centuries are colliding at a furious pace. All the 21st century problems and delights are evident, with one great difference from Tacoma. Indians seem to always be kind, to smile, and accommodate each other and strangers. While I was there, I saw no jails or prisons, not a single driver was flipping off another. All right, so I was there from October 23rd until November 9th, 2019. I titled my speech "Of Marigolds, Gods, and Cosmic Chaos," because that is what you will find in India. Marigolds were given to us right when we landed, like a lei in Hawaii. And there are so many gods, I certainly can't keep track of them. And the traffic is just totally amazing. The first picture you'll see are 3 gentlemen riding on an elephant. This was the mural that was depicted on our residence where we were teaching. The residence was owned by the Maharaja. His wife was a jeweler, designer, and they were leasing this out to a very large conglomerate that allows people to stay there. There were 5 of us in our group, and we were the only residents in this place for the first 4 days, so that was pretty exciting. We really felt like we had come to paradise. We were awakened by monkeys screaming and by peacocks crying and running around. And as I said, I went there to teach. So the next picture is a picture of one of my students and 2 of her friends in the background. And this is the entrance to the school. On the way to the school, we would always encounter a few cows. Sometimes I would share my breakfast with them. This cow belongs to the people who live behind the door. They feed it. They milk it, and the milk can be sold if it isn't used by the family. Here's some other picture of the little tykes that we encountered on the way to school. They just loved us, and every morning that was our reception committee. As I said, of marigolds, gods, and cosmic chaos, there were so many different churches and temples. It was absolutely amazing. In India, 2.5% of the people are Christian. 14.4% of the people are Muslim. 79.5% of the people are Hindu, and the Jewish population is almost non-existent. It says 0%. Whereas in the United States, we have 78.3% Christian, 0.9% Muslim, and 0.6% Hindu. The Muslims ruled India for many centuries, and so there is a very large Muslim influence. The first temple showing you, that's the next picture, is actually the Sikh temple in New Delhi. We spent our first 3 days of our trip seeing the sites in New Delhi. The Sikhs are a modern invention and religiosity, and they have some very interesting theories. It was founded in 1469, and the guy has a very distinct personality, and they honor women. They are a significant part of the community. The woman is considered to have the same soul as a man. The Sikh code of conduct is interesting. All intoxications such as alcohol, tobacco, and all its derivations, eating prohibited. Trimming of hair is prohibited. That's why they wear a big turban. Eating meat prepared as per Muslim rites, halal, are forbidden. Adultery is considered a sin. A Sikh should regard another man's wife as his sister or mother, and another man's daughter as his own daughter. The same rule is applicable to the women, and so forth and so on. It's really, really interesting. One thing that they do is they feed between 3,000 to 6,000 people a day at this temple. So the next picture shows the dining hall being readied for the next big meal. Here is a woman making the bread that she does by hand. Here are the breads toasted on an enormous grill. Another place of worship that really touched me was the Baha'i temple. Now, the Baha'is also have a temple here in the United States, and when I was in my 20s, I thought I wanted to become a Baha'i. It is really not very old. It's only 175 years old as a religion. The Lotus Temple is located in New Delhi. We took the subway to get there, and once we got there, we encountered many, many people. A family. The father was a pharmacist. A woman in her finest outfits. The red dot on the forehead is something that we shared every time we went to a new hotel. We were always dotted on our forehead. Look at these outfits. Aren't they just amazing? While we were in New Delhi, we stayed in a hotel called the Tree of Life. And the hotel was getting ready to celebrate Diwali, one of their highest holidays, the Festival of Lights. And so you see the picture with light streamers hanging down from the building. When we were driving from the airport to the hotel, it was pretty scary because we were in a van, and the traffic was unbelievable. There were ox carts, there were donkey carts, there were pedicabs and rickshaws. There were very fast Mercedeses making their way through the city, and it is really quite amazing. We visited an orphanage while we were in New Delhi, and this young man is named Asif. He came there the first time as an 8-year-old, and then he ran away again and returned as a 10-year-old. He's been going to school. Now he is finishing his degree in education, and he was our guide through the orphanage. That was quite amazing. When I said that there were lots of marigolds, gods, and cosmic chaos, I didn't mention all the colors. The colors of India are just absolutely amazing. And this woman was selling string. And here are some other pictures of color. These women were celebrating a high holiday in a pilgrimage town called Pushkar. They came from the countryside, and they're decked out in their finest attire. And here's a picture of one of the temples that we found in Pushkar. Pushkar has more than 300 places of worship. It is a holy pilgrimage site. We're going to jump back to the school where I taught. The children would have assemblies, and they would stand in the dirt and recite the Pledge of Allegiance and the flag, and they would sing a very, very long song. I did not understand a word of it. The teachers are standing in front of the students, and this was right after the holiday. They had been out for 2 weeks. Some of those students arrived on motorcycle, some of them were brought by bus, and many of them walked from the village. These are some pictures of a private school. The tuition for the public school is $200 a year. That includes the uniform and all the books and the glass of milk every day. These kids' parents pay $400 a year, and of course they also wear uniforms, a little bit more upscale perhaps. It started out as an orphanage, and these 2 gentlemen were orphans, and now they're teachers on the premises. This is Susan Wren, my roommate. She is wearing the obligatory marigold lei, and this was our stay in New Delhi, and there's a picture of me doing exactly the same thing. To get there is about a 3-day travel, and so we were pretty tired, to say the least. Part of the chaos in India are the monkeys, and these were right outside my bedroom. And this is how you lock the door from the outside. I was always a little bit nervous that I would get locked in. There's a padlock that fits on there as well, and we always had to hand over our keys to the guard at the gate. Sue's birthday was while we were there, and we had 3 cooks for 5 people, and every night we ate al fresco. And unfortunately, we could not eat any of the fresh vegetables. But look at this presentation. That's an eggplant in the middle. Can you believe that? Unbelievable. And of course, that is a peacock. Here are some close-up pictures of our students. Aren't they beautiful? We would teach in the mornings and go for rides in the afternoon. Jaipur was very, very close to our village, and this is the famous Wind Palace in Jaipur. It has 900 rooms, and behind each one of those windows, the concubines used to sit and look down on the bustling street below. Back in those days, there were no cars in the street. Lots of elephants, though. The building is only 1 room wide, so that the wind could blow right through it. And that's why it's called the Wind Palace. Outside of town is the Amber Palace. That was inhabited for 200 years. And it was built by the Mughals, so it has much architectural influence from the Mongols. So Mughals and Mongols is the same word. The Indians couldn't say Mongol, so they said Mughal. The person with the red scarf is Anne. She's originally from Yakima. The person on the right is moi, and the person on the left is Sue. And we were on an outing to visit this palace. And here is a picture of the palace and some people inside. These are huge palaces. And, oops, I lost it. We walked through it because it had been a holiday. There were many Indians afoot. The Maharaja who owned this was really into glitter, and it had an entire room filled with semi-precious stones and mirrors on the wall. Well, before the British left, they took all the precious stones with them. At the end of the day, we would walk back through this big gate where the guard would hand us our keys, and we would be back inside our building. Just outside our building was this temple where we saw people worship daily. The flag of India is on top of the temple. This is my buddy Hans. He gave me a ride on his motorcycle. Our coordinator had a car that seated 5 people in a pinch, and since there were 6 of us when he was the driver, somebody had to go a different way, and Hans was very happy. He wanted me to ride side saddle, which is what all the women do on motorcycles, but I refused, so I jumped on the back of it. For Diwali, they decorate many, many, many places with real oil candles in earthen pots with a wick. You buy them at the market, and afterwards you don't have to store them. You just throw them away and they become part of the soil again. Oops, we're going back to the orphanage in New Delhi in this picture. And in this picture, we're at Gandhi's memorial. You know, Gandhi made a very, very big impression with nonviolent demonstrations. These are his footsteps. The gentleman in the red shirt was our guide in India, and as you can tell, he had quite a swagger. The building in the background is the actual place where Gandhi was killed. And this is the memorial in the front. It's the big World Peace Gong, and it shows our entire group. The gentleman on the right is Steve. He's married to Anne, who is the tall woman on the left. In the front is Anne from Boston, and in the back is Sue, and of course myself. And once more, a picture with marigolds and the ever-present statue of the elephant, the god that was also in the front of our van when we traveled, and he protected us nicely. One of the first places we visited when we were in New Delhi was this enormously huge mosque. For Friday prayers, they can pack in 70,000 people. I'll have to look up that number again. And it was really quite amazing. You know, Muslims bathe before they worship, and so they had these baths on the inside. The only creatures taking foot baths were the pigeons that were there when we were there. It was the last monument commissioned by Shah Jahan, and it was completed in 1656. This is the same Shah who also commissioned the Taj Mahal, which we will be visiting in a little while. Unfortunately, the Shah was deposed of by his son. And these guys ruled northern and central India until 1769. Do you remember who came next to rule over India? Yep, you got it. The British East India Company began its control until 1949. Let's see. This is the tallest minaret in New Delhi and in India. It was built in 1192. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is an example of Indo-Islamic Afghan architecture. It is huge. And this picture, unfortunately, jumps far away to our school again. They were adding new classrooms. You can see the sand pile and the bricks getting ready to build. Here we have the pouring of the milk. The students sit down, and they also do yoga in that position, and then they stand up. And it's quite interesting because they have monitors who walk up and down the rows and slightly tap people on the back to make sure that they sit upright. So I have to pretend that I have a monitor behind me so I don't slouch. This was our last day at school. The story of Rajasthan are passed down by singers, and they sing in poetry form. This gentleman told us all about the history of Rajasthan in that language, which meant we didn't understand anything, but it was quite beautiful. So if you look very carefully, you can see the elephant again that I showed you earlier as the mural. I wanted to climb to the top of that hill that's in the background, and I asked many different people. They always said yes, but nobody ever would go with me. The last time I asked the hotel manager, and he says, I'll get the front gate guard to go with you. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, he was ready to take me there, and we walked into this building, and we walked to the top floor. And I said, no, 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 I want to go on the mountain. And he said, oh no, I'm not going there. Well, remember those monkeys I showed you earlier? It's their mountain. And they can be very aggressive, and I didn't know that. So, live and learn. On this side of the building, the Maharaja lives with his wife. Here's a picture of his wife, and I told you that she was a jewelry designer. She told us the story that the Maharaja and the wife are in charge of making sure everybody has a job, and so now she designs jewelry, assembles all the pearls and gems that need to go in it, and then she takes it to the women in the village and they make the jewelry. So what you see here is my peacock from India. She designed it, and these are glass shards, not diamonds. The same thing, and diamonds would take care of my children's inheritance. This was our dining room. And there's Hans serving us a meal, and his sidekick, I can't remember his name. This was my bedroom in this little castle, and it was quite amazing. And there's one of those little monkeys. He found the antenna, and he was pushing off on the wall and swinging way out over the edge. The gentleman who ran our hotel was Jain religion. They are the people who will not step on an ant or smoosh a mosquito. They think all life is sacred. Well, these monkeys are quite interesting because they would break off greenery and then chase each other along the edge of the compound. And one day I noticed that Kaval, that was his name, asked the guard to chase the monkeys away. And I said, "Is that okay to do in your religion?" He says, "Well, when they infringe on my income, it is very much okay," because they were taking the greenery apart. Another thing I attended was a big fair with camels. This was the same town that had all those beautiful women in red going to worship in the city. Camels come in many different colors. See how they have their foot tied up? So now they're standing on 3 feet. That keeps them from running away. Something to try with our children when we're under lockdown. One of the most amazing things I encountered while I was there was this well. It's called the step well, and it has more than 9,000 steps, and now you have to pretend that on many of the steps are women in those beautiful saris going down to the bottom to get the water. Can you believe it? So there were like 3,000 step wells in the northern part of India because it's very arid. The British didn't like them, so they filled them with their debris and used them as garbage dumps. This one is one of the few that is left over. And here's a picture of the Taj Mahal. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning, and there should be a sun in the background, but it was so smoggy that you could see neither the sun nor much of the Taj Mahal. When you get a little closer, you can take pictures from the outside. Everything you see in black is black marble. And this is the Quran, verses of the Quran spelled out around the gate. Our guide told us that the verse had to be carved in its entirety without a break. I don't know how they did that, but they had amazing craftsmen there. It was beautiful, and it's a mausoleum. There are 2 graves on the inside. This is called the Little Taj. It's in the same town. And the woman who is buried in the big Taj Mahal designed this one for her parents. And it was easier for me to appreciate because there were not so many people there. Breakfast cosmic chaos. This is a temple that we encountered on the way to the Taj Mahal. Check out that elephant. It even lights up at night. The main entry. Pretty fancy. And there are the peacocks. They were just everywhere. One of the murals on our castle, and it tells the story. I'm sure they want their clothes back, but I don't know what the rest of the story is. They're swimming down here in the water. Talk about swimming. Our palace came with a swimming pool, and I went swimming whenever I had the opportunity. The walls with the greenery is where the monkeys played catch. The tiled area is where Anne from Yakima and I would meet at 6:30 in the morning and do yoga. And the peacocks would sit on the other side and watch us. But I came to teach, and so here is Halloween. We bought the pumpkin at a market. We carved it all together, and it was quite an amazing feat. The girls didn't want to get their hands dirty, so I had wet ones, and I handed each one a wet one to make sure that their hands were clean. Do you have any questions?
What was the red dot for?
It's a blessing, and it keeps you safe in the chaos that exists everywhere. Any other questions? No? Well, we jumbled around because, you know, technology doesn't always do what you want it to do. But if you ever have a chance, it is an amazing place to go. This was a Rhodes Scholar project, and because we were teaching, it only cost half of the amount that a normal trip to India costs, which was certainly a come on for this cheap traveler. And I could highly recommend it. Recently, I received an email from the gentleman who was our babysitter in Kalwar, the village where the school is, and he said that Rhodes Scholar will no longer offer this program. I really don't think they made any money on it. That might be part of the reason, but it was certainly satisfying for me. Goodbye.